I don't come from a traditional crypto founder background. I'm not like a Silicon Valley guy or a finance guy, but I do have a lot of experience in the crypto markets. I was actually working outside of crypto before I joined Farcaster. I was working in VC or for a VC as a ghostwriter. Um, and that was really fun, but also, you know, uh, making someone else's ideas palatable for an audience is kind of a strange job. And I wanted to get back into more actively building. One thing that I said before I joined Farcaster was that I needed to finish whatever I started. Like I needed to see projects through more uh, to their conclusion because I had been involved in a lot of like early stage kind of community building in crypto, but I hadn't gone, stayed with a project through
You were
to
like focused on a specific stage, basically.
exactly. And so that was um, a big shift. And I think it was just a mindset shift. And so I joined Farcaster. I'd always like known about it. I thought Dan's policy of making you DM him was really lame and like cringe. Just because crypto is supposed to be open and permissionless. And so I only joined after I saw DGen going up, and I was like, What is this? Why do I not know anything about this? Usually you know something." Um, and I joined, and I pretty quickly thought that this is something that is very exciting. And I made an account called Proxystudio and kind of had this idea of what I might do. And that's how I started. I think I bridged zero point 0.3 ETH to base and made that account in
What
February, like
was
February 5th.
what was the like seed of the idea when you first started Proxystudio at that point?
I had been working in this kind of like adventure adjacent role, and I was really interested in different funding models for very, very early stage development. One thing that I've always thought about crypto is it's just like the best method to take a idea and find kind of attention and capital. Like just being in these kind of coin markets, being in the DAO craze, seeing how people were able to translate their social capital to material capital was eye-opening. And I thought Farcaster seemed uniquely well suited for that. So I thought I'm going to start an open venture studio where both the funding and the contributions come from the network, and we're going to like, find promising opportunities, ship projects, leaning into them, and then kind of roll out companies from that.
And so that was contemplated as a little bit more of still like a stage specific idea versus this later sort of wanting to really see things through more so.
No, the seeing things through was more like a personal commitment. I was just like, all right, buddy, time to like buck up and you're gonna join Farcaster and just spend like 12 months grinding, and you're not gonna quit if like every number goes down. You are gonna like commit to doing something. You have some savings, you can do this. And
Well, it's worked out pretty well so far,
huh? It's been really amazing. I've had an amazing year in Farcaster. I feel like the network has been it like embraced me and was super open to the contributions that I gave it. And then I also just think Farcaster is such a unique space to experiment with. There's this ability you have to like fail in public on Farcaster that I don't know if it exists in the same way elsewhere, but for me felt very unique.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's an interesting thing that I've sort of felt ever since joining. I joined like more like 2.5 years ago, and I feel like
Whoa.
my sort of you know, engagement on Farcaster has been like a pretty steady line up and to the right, like pretty slow over that period of time, but just continues to go up. It started with basically like mirroring posts from Twitter, and then now it's like vast majority of what I'm doing is on Farcaster, and occasionally I like cross post to Twitter. Basically, it's sort of like flipped on its head. But it's just I think there's this interesting element where like such a high percentage of the people on Farcaster are builders. And sometimes I wonder, like, it's just like builders building for builders almost. There's like no like, pure
Dude.
consumers who are just like, looking to do things. They're looking to like sort of, interact. Like everyone is building something of their own. And then all of these people who are building their own things are also like interacting with others things. And I wonder, I mean, over time, if Farcaster does materially expand into like a Twitter scale thing or whatever it might be, that ratio obviously has to change unless, if it didn't, the implication would be that everyone in the world has sort of become like a builder of some sort, which I suppose is, the percentage of builders in the world could certainly increase just with like lower friction to do so with AI and whatever else. Certainly, depending on how you define a builder, also like, launching a token years ago, you might have had to like raise VC and get a bunch of lawyers and whatever. And now you tag the clanker bot and you're good to go. So the friction to
Yep.
building definitely has gone down. And so it's not totally unreasonable to speculate that a larger
But not
number of people
everyone
will build.
not everyone wants to build. I think like
I agree.
listen, I think this is the core problem that I have had with Farcaster over the years. It's this incredible environment with tons of talented builders, but it's also this really controlled and almost safe sandbox. And on the positive side of this is you can fail. So you can try things and get creative, and the stakes feel a little bit lower if you're, unless you're like the Merkle team, or have raised venture funding for your product. But for someone like me, right, the stakes are defined by, were defined by my relationship to a network of people that I developed a trust relationship with, where they were like subscribing to my hyper sub, and later, participating in different projects, and that gave me a lot of room. But on the other hand, I was contributing to a DAO that, my community, Proxystudio and FBI, kind of incubated together. And that DAO is called ProxySwap DAO, is called. And we were tracking 30 active daily users on, a relatively essentially dead L3 on DGen chain. And seeing that low level of activity, now granted, that was kind of the backwater of Farcaster, which in and of itself has felt a little bit like a backwater for some of this year. What made me want users so badly, and they're not the same thing. Like having a solo founder using, Claude and some skin in the game to make their dream happen is not the same as just like a random anon coming to buy a token.
Right.
Uh, and it made me realize that I had been trying to conform some of my ideas to Farcaster, which is super, everyone's obsessed with like consumer crypto or social products that are non-speculative. And that was kind of just fading the entire like strengths of the crypto markets, because the crypto markets do have users, they do exist. It's not like, they all need to be onboarded from normie land where people don't speculate. They exist. We just weren't really making stuff that they were super interested in. But when like Yasik did, he found a bunch of users and onboarded a bunch of them. And that opened my eyes a bit.
So what was the origin story for Clanker? Like, how did you come up with the idea? Was it inspired or influenced by previous things you'd work on or other things existing? And how did it come to
Yeah.
be? Over what timeline, et cetera?
I think, if we had an hour, I could probably string together a story from like the first day I joined Farcaster to clanker launch, right? It's all connected. Clanker was influenced by a whole process of building with other people, interacting with products that people launched and around me, and also just like working with devs a lot more and learning a lot of technical skills. I would say to make a long story short, um, I had been working with contract devs on ProxySwap DAO for a long time, and these are great devs who did some really good work, but they were paid a retainer that based on a certain amount of time, and so just kind of inherently that relationship is less long term. It's more like focused on a specific deliverable, and uh, we were struggling essentially to build products that got any use. And during that time, I ended up meeting this guy named Jack Dishman. Jack is a Farcaster user, and he had quit his job early in the summer to just like ship Farcaster open source contributions. He built an on-chain boat registry because he, refurbished a boat and loves that kind of community and culture. He built a crowdfunding frame and used it to help raise money for his a relative who's going through a serious illness. And I donated to that crowdfunding frame, and I won a raffle to take a ride on his boat. And it was supposed to be a group of us, but um, it ended up being just me, Jack, and his brother, and one of their friends. And we spent a like perfect summer day riding around on this boat outside the city that we both happen to be living in right now. Um, and Jack and I talked. Talked about the work I was doing. He talked about all the stuff he was doing. And at the end of the day, I said, dude, like we should just build together, like just maybe an experiment, have some fun. Jack was super down. We started building. Fast forward kind of a month or two, I was pretty convinced I needed a technical co-founder to make something go bigger. I had been thinking a lot about how it made sense that that social networks should be much more linked with crypto markets. And I had been thinking about basically trading app that brought social data and Farcaster data into a trading environment. And so I was kind of thinking like the opposite way that Clanker is, and um, had been building around that. And Jack and I started building out as a side project a Farcaster native launchpad called Pump.LinkedIn. And this was like it was kind of a weird product, but the idea was basically that in order to launch a coin, you would have to send an application to Farcaster network. And that application would be, you could like, I don't know, say you were going to launch something, you could tag Ox Designer, you could tag me and Dan Romero, and they would all have to give you a referral in order for your coin to get deployed. And so we thought of it as like a job application on LinkedIn. You get like vouchers from people. And we've been building this, making slow, steady progress. And I was really impressed that he was just kind of delivering in a way I wasn't used to, at a pace I wasn't used to. Uh, Eventually, I was like, oh, this dude's going to get a job, like a real job. I think he applied to jobs at like Base and some other ecosystem projects, and I gave him referrals for some of these jobs. And eventually I was just like, dude, do you want to spend a week working out of my mom's empty office downtown? Because her company like doesn't really use it anymore. And, he said, yeah. And we said, okay, let's pick an idea that we can just build in 5 days. And that is how we got to building Clanker. Um, the one thing I would say is that we did not start by building Clanker. We had a different idea, which was called Rogue Agent, which was basically that we were going to construct a experience where users would feel as though an agent went rogue. And that was kind of the whole concept. And we didn't know how to do it. We had never built with agents, or Jack had done all this AI stuff, but kind of like wasn't into agents. And I had no idea really. I just was reading stuff. And then we got into the weeds. We built out the functionality the bot would need, which would be coin deployment and swapping and interacting, through an account. And kind of by accident on day 3 on a Wednesday, we realized that we built this highly functional launchpad agent. And I kind of just liked the user experience. One project that was really influential was also Martin's Ethernet.
Yeah.
It stunned me that this like solo dev built a bot that just talked to people and that had a wallet that kind of Martin was controlling, but also maybe had taught like he could allow the bot to do certain things. And people were going nuts over it early. Like I think it launched a mint that went to some absurd market cap. And it felt like this pent up energy. And Martin's whole kind of approach to building since hire has been really influential to me. He has like super like high bias to action. He's always just like shipping it, coming out with something that kind of shocks and amazes Farcaster, and then like following that up. And seeing all that changed my mind about these agents. I realized that they could talk to like every user on the network at once. I thought, damn, that's really powerful and interesting. So yeah, that's basically how we got to launching Clanker. Jack built out the entire initial product. I'm not really a dev, I'm a yapper. I have some ideas and I have a lot of experience with crypto markets. So
That's awesome.
yeah, we launched it on a Friday.
I always love hearing stories of like how these things come to be and like literally your decision to like I always am sort of just in awe of like the butterfly effect, if you will, and like you sort of made this decision to donate to this through this frame that he built, which is
Yeah.
like probably one of a million decisions you made that day, like not something that you would have considered to be consequential at all, and then that leads to you on the boat with him, and you just happen to live in the same city. Otherwise, even if he had offered you that, you probably wouldn't have
Yes.
like flown to go on the boat, and then like you're on the boat, decide to build. Like so many things had to happen for
Yeah.
Clanker to exist. And it's just kind of crazy to hear how all of that came together, and you gave yourself a constraint of 5 days, spent 2 or 3 on something else, and sort of after all of that arrived at Clanker. And so
Yeah.
obviously it's been, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, the thing I like about Clanker is that it wasn't as though we set out to make a bunch of coins go to a high market. We were actually just pursuing a process of like becoming better builders and trying to be engaged in the network that we were working in essentially. And Farcaster had given us a lot of experiences with different pieces of Clanker. Like Martin was building this agent, other teams were building agents. Ask Gina was a great agent that had all this cool like market functionality, but was just talking to users. And I talked to that team and they were awesome. Jack had been building all this different tech that and he was talking to me about how he was struggling to get distribution for his products. And I think I said to him on the boat, like, dude, I can help with that. Because I had a slightly larger Farcaster following. But we had
And
no
a
idea.
bias and a bias for yapping.
Yes, a bias for yapping. So that's, it was very natural. And that I think is kind of how it should be. Not that you can't be maybe more formal or organized about building a company or a business, but when you're experimenting, I think you really need to like experiment.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think the more traditional, like sort of foreseeable path of like going and starting a startup is obviously it works in a lot of cases, but it seems to me that the more successful ones tend to have less traditional origin stories.
Yeah.
And kind of makes sense given that you have to do something materially different to stand out from a crowd of a bunch of companies, trying to do the next best thing.
Well,
I know,
even
oh, go ahead.
think. I was just gonna say, think about clanker. Right now, there's probably six agent launch pads. A bunch of them have forked our V0 contract, and I keep wanting to DM them like, "Yo, fork our V1. It's a better contract." But
I saw your cast
we
on it. It's like, hey guys, like this, you're forking an archive
yeah, it's
launcher.
like you really shouldn't like yeah, I think it will be safe, but like you should we have better tech available and it's right there. If you can fork V0, you can fork V1.
Yeah,
Uh
it's like by all means copy us, but copy us better.
exactly. I really think that especially with the AI stuff, the edge, if you have a lot of capital and a lot of dev talent or resources, you will develop like a tech edge. But to me, the edge that we had was that we were doing the right thing at the right time, and thinking about new ways that users were engaging with products in crypto that was super influenced by all the work everyone around us was doing. Um, and was super influenced just by like what Farcaster kind of is. And so we weren't really thinking in those conventional mindsets, and that opened up some space for um, a bunch of things to happen. And also, to be clear, I think we were well positioned to be lucky. And so now is maybe more when whatever talent we have will show over time as we make decisions that are super pivotal for like growth or death.
Yeah. So I know we are on a super tight time window here with like 2 minutes left or something like that, and appreciate the time that you did spend. And we'll hopefully have some more conversations. And
Yeah.
this was a nice little V1. But in closing, I'm probably gonna go. I've got this new thing going with this new podcast. I just like sort of turn it around when I feel like it, like immediately. So I'm probably
Cool.
just gonna post this today. And in
Nice.
that sort of vein, is there anything that you can share that is like sort of top of mind? Like no, no, you don't need to give spoilers or anything,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious what is top of mind given. Like I'd love to know how what's going on has been more generally, but I think that's like a sort of a longer question to
Yeah.
to summarize the last week. But just sort of fast forwarding, what is top of mind for you, like right now at this very moment, that you're thinking about? That's like sort of the next big, or the biggest problem or
Yep.
whatever that's sort of like consuming you right now as it relates to Clanker and the whirlwind that it's been over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, man, there are so many things we have to do. First of all, I would just say it's been like incredibly hectic and busy and exciting month. We're building out a team right around our company. We are, I think, for me, one of the biggest things is there are all these amazing projects that are leveraging Clanker, either the product that we have or the coins that they've created on Clanker to go out and get attention and capital and rewards that can fuel their own ambitions. And that kind of ecosystem vision of Clanker is um, incredibly powerful, I think. And I also want to just help all of those people way more than I've had capacity to, or Jack's had capacity to. Like we're doing what we can right now, but I think we can do way more. And that can mean many things. It can mean Jack writing an API that lets people plug, rewards claiming into their interfaces. That could mean uh, us meeting with the splits team to talk about contract modifications. to bake in like a little bit more custom composability into future factory contracts. It could mean us working with some of the tokenized agents that are coming our way, um, building out more customized and quite capable agents that can uh, we can kind of attach to coins and give to projects to power their growth. I think one thing I'm very aware of is just like where we're coming from. And that's the Purple app, right? Like, we love it. We're all for it. But a lot of people do not pay attention to what we do. Or maybe they pay attention, but like they're late and they don't really go over the bridge and spend enough time to for that to be enough. And I think I am spending a lot more time like going out into the world and saying, hey, come over. We got something cooking. We want you to build on us and trade with us and use our product. And we want your feedback and knowledge. So yeah, I feel a huge amount of gratitude for everyone who has been supportive. And I want to redirect and distribute the value that we've been able to generate and kind of accumulate. And I want to use that to grow Farcaster, to benefit builders in the network, and to, we're competitive and very hungry. Like we want to win.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap. And hopefully, like I said, we can have, more conversations in the future. It's been a great first one, and pleasure interacting in the feed, especially with the Helvetica Comic Sans wars over the last 24, 48 hours. But I know
Yeah,
it's,
likewise.
yeah, it's 12:33 Eastern time on Friday, December 6th. So that means I've kept you 3 minutes late. I apologize, and I will let you
No
go. But
worries.
this
Thanks so
episode will
much,
be
man.
posted as soon as I get back from lunch with my wife. So have a good rest
Awesome.
of the day, and talk
Yeah,
soon.
enjoy your lunch with your wife, man. I
All right,
appreciate you.
all
Bye.
right, later. Bye.